Happy Earth Day, everybody. Welcome to the next Oakville Ready webinar. Today is Wednesday, April the 22nd. It is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. We're really excited here at the Oakville Ready team to have a special session today about talking about how we make Earth Day every day. We're really excited for everyone in the community to share how they make everyday actions sustainable for our community. And without further ado, we're going to get started. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box. We are monitoring it. As a community, we have the responsibility to honor, care for, and respect all the creation gives to provide us with life. This includes the land, water, animals, fire, plants, and our ancestors. The Anishinaabe peoples have utilized this land for millennia, and we'd like to acknowledge their direct descendants, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land upon which we live, work, and conduct ourselves. We acknowledge our treaty relationships and responsibilities to both the land and these original peoples. We also recognize that this land is rich in pre-contact history and customs, which include the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee, and since European contact has and continues to become home for Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. And it is in the spirit and intent of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement, whereby we will collectively care for and respect the land, water, animals, and each other in the interest of peace and friendship, and for the benefits of not only ourselves, but our future descendants. Without further ado, I'm going to let Trisha Henderson from the town of Oakville's Climate Action Team take it away from here.
Great, thank you, Lisa. So as mentioned, my name is Trisha Henderson and I work in the Climate Action Department of the town of Oakville. About a year and a half ago, we embarked on implementing this program, Oakville Ready, in partnership with the Halton Environmental Network. And with funding from the Oakville Community Foundation. So the point of this pilot program was to establish 6 neighborhood hubs using faith-based organizations that could act in times of need of extreme weather, flooding, high winds, power outages, and fire as a safe kind of temporary refuge for people to go, have a nice warm cup of tea, and have a direct link with the town on when the situation is going to be resolved. So when the power will be back up, or when they expect the winds to subside and things like that. It really is a neighbor helping neighbors type of program where we're trying to build community resiliency by connecting a diverse community together by using these faith-based organizations. We really are finding, we knew it would, but we are finding that it is increasing our community capacity and resiliency through very vulnerable pockets of Oakville. So we are learning and understanding how community can work together during times of extreme weather. And we're reaching out to the hubs and they're also teaching us. So it really is a give and take, a really good relationship we have going. So as I mentioned, we implemented the Oakville Ready program as just another step in preparing our community for the increased extreme weather events that we are experiencing. So as we know, we have been seeing more increased precipitation where it's coming down really hard and in short durations, which is overwhelming some of our stormwater systems and causing localized flooding. Over the past month, while we've all been home, I think we've had at least 4 or 5 extreme high wind events, which in my neighborhood caused a 7-hour power outage and also damaged some cars with branches coming down and things like that. So we are noticing that the extreme weather is increasing in its severity and in its frequency. So this program was put in place to really alleviate some of the stress and anxiety that residents are feeling within that 1 to 4 hours after an extreme event happens. And as I mentioned, this program really is put in place to build community resiliency through the faith-based organizations that are already established within Oakville. So our goal of the pilot program was to establish 6 neighborhood hubs. We did end up getting 7 hubs as part of the pilot program. We blanketed the town of Oakville. We reached out to every single faith-based organization in town, and ended up with 7 as part of our pilot program. And as I mentioned, a lot of these faith leaders and members have a lot of experience with extreme events and emergency situations. We have nurses that have been involved in the SARS pandemic. From Cherie Bethel was involved in the 9/11 attacks and things like that. So as I said, we're learning from them and trying to teach them things as well as vice versa. So it really has been a fantastic relationship. We are looking right now to expand the program. So again, we have opportunities for other organizations to come on board. We do have additional supports from Halton Region Emergency Preparedness, Faith in the Common Good, and CREW, which is a similar program that runs out of Toronto. So as I mentioned, Oakville Ready really was put into place to deal with climate change adaptation and the increase of severe weather events. But in light of physical distancing and COVID-19, we've really pivoted the program. And what we're doing now, and what we've been doing over the last couple months, is to really build a virtual community within Oakville. A lot of people are obviously isolated at home. They don't have a lot of, social connections right now. So we're really trying to provide technical support for the faith-based organizations by putting their services online, some of their book clubs and things like that online for them. We're providing resources and wellness checks through these faith-based organizations and through our website. And we really are, and we want to really point out that Halton Region is the public health authority in the area. So if you do have any questions on the pandemic or you want to know what's happening within Halton Region, we urge you to check out their website at halton.ca or dial 311. So again, as we've pivoted the program and building this virtual community online, we've hosted several webinars to date, and we're here today on Earth Day, 50-year anniversary, to just talk about the everyday things that we can do. So I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie at this point, and she'll take it away. Perfect.
Thank you, Trisha. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Bush, and I work at the Halton Environmental Network with the Greening Sacred Spaces team. And we're really excited today to join Oakville Ready since it's a joint initiative with the Town of Oakville Climate Action Team and our Halton Environmental Network team, in order to talk about how we, as environmentalists and climate action people interested in climate action, are taking actions ourselves every day, and hoping that we can share some ideas with you, but also hoping to hear from you about things that you're doing as well. So I'm going to just start by talking a little bit about some of the guidelines for the call today. I think Lisa's going to forward to the next slide. So if you are interested in connecting with us, please use the chat box and or look for the hand up feature in the chat box as well if you want to ask any questions as we go. We're going to try to keep most people on mute just so that we can all stay focused a little bit more easily, but feel free to communicate with us and let us know if you have a question. You can also privately message the host by choosing in the chat box to speak directly to the Halton Environmental Network or to Trisha. We are here to answer any questions. And the next piece is really about how we're going to communicate together today. Lisa, if you don't mind forwarding to the next slide. Thank you. So we're going to respect confidentiality. Keep yourself on mute. As I said, we're going to try to manage that as well using the chat box. Take care of yourself. If there's something you need to do, please feel free to do what you have to. Share the air and the chat box space so that everyone sort of has a chance. We're going to question ideas, not people, and call people in and not out through this process out of respect for everyone. And of course, if you need any additional COVID-19 support, please contact 311 for that process. That's not what this call is going to address today. So as we move into talking about different ways people can celebrate Earth Day at home and participate, there are a couple different things that are going on. So the Halton Environmental Network has posted a bingo card. If you go to the Facebook link for that, you can see there are some direct links to different videos and sites to help you complete the card or to complete the line. The first 100 people who complete and submit a line will get some free seeds sent to them in the mail. Another program that has been very engaging as well is the Goose Chase Challenge. So feel free to look that up, download the app, and then you can enter a game code there, and that has been quite engaging for a lot of families to get involved with. And tonight, Halton Environmental Network, along with Halton Hills Eco Film Festival, is hosting a movie night through Netflix. So you can just go to the Facebook page again, and that will direct you to how to connect to that being hosted tonight. The film is The Biggest Little Farm. And lastly, before we start hearing from everyone from our different programs, there are other opportunities to look at events and activities through these sites that are here. Conservation Halton has a lot of nature-based home learning. There are virtual hikes of national parks through the next link. And then the Royal Botanical Gardens is also offering a variety of programming for people who are unable to attend there in person right now. Okay, so 50 years since Earth Day started, and we are excited as the teams from the Halton Environmental Network and the Climate Action team, from the town of Oakville, are excited to share what we do with you today. So if we can go on to the next slide. I'm going to help cover some of my teammates' activities today because they're working either behind the scenes or unable to join us, but I didn't want to miss out on their great ideas. So Andrea Rowe works with our Halton Food and our Greening Sacred Spaces programs. She's a strong gardener, so she certainly gardens for nature, using native species, growing vegetables, also using a rain barrel rather than tap water. I actually have 2 of those at my home as well, which are great. Utilizing rain gardens to divert downspout water, no more fertilization for grass, and using a battery-powered mower for the lawn, whatever remains after all the garden space. In addition, she focuses on reducing waste by being more aware of the packaging when she's purchasing food for lunches and bringing her own shopping bags for that, and trying to avoid litter when creating lunches. The last thing is some home retrofits. So LED lights on dimmer switches, having a tankless water heater, new windows in a front door, as well as using Energy Star appliances, keeping the thermostat lower through the winter. And they're hoping at some point to get some solar panels, which would be great. Thank you, Andrea. Now, Lisa, who's also behind the scenes today, she and her family also focus on doing clothing swaps with friends and other family members, and shop at places like Plato's Closets and other upcycling stores to reduce the clothing consumption, because we know the clothing industry has a big impact on greenhouse gas emissions. She also keeps her thermostat lower and opens the windows or the blinds during the day to let the sun shine in and warm the home, and then closing those once it starts to get dark to keep that warmth in the house. And lastly, she also has done some retrofits to her home with lighting, insulation, tankless water heater, windows and doors, low flow toilets, and the list goes on. So there are a lot of smaller projects that can be done in the home to also take into to try to preserve the environment. Thank you, Lisa. Over to Helen to cover herself and her colleague Alyson as well.
Hi, I'm Helen from Halton Food, and my top 3 choices for being sustainable and helping Mother Earth is, first one is waiting until the daytime temperatures are at least 10 degrees Celsius consistently before cleaning up my yard. And this is to help protect native insects and bees, which often have habitats and nests and eggs that are in leaf litter, and they're in the long stalks of grass and things like that. So I wait until it's 10 degrees that they're up and out of the earth, and they're going to survive. My second one, I only do laundry on the weekends. This lowers my hydro bill, so it's good for me, and it's less demand on the system. Another one is to run my dishwasher at night instead of during the day. If I'm unsure of where an item should go, such as the blue bin, waste bin, or the green bin, I check the Halton Put Waste in Its Place website. If I'm in doubt, I throw it in the garbage, and this is to prevent contaminating the recycling bins. If you contaminate a recycling bin, everything has to be thrown in the garbage, and all our recycling efforts are wasted. So I make sure that I'm following the guidelines of where everything should be. My coworker Alyson, she buys fruits and vegetables off the discount shelf to reduce food waste. She upcycles items like lettuce boxes and muffin clamshells for starting seedlings and sprouts before she recycles those items. For all of their non-recyclable plastics and styrofoam, she purchases TerraCycle zero waste boxes so she can dispose of those items. And now over to Heather.
Hello, everyone. So my best way, I think, to make Earth Day every day is to think about the Earth every day and everything that we do. And that's why I put rethink as my top one. So anytime I'm making a decision, I just keep the Earth in my mind and think about what is the impact of the decision. And I would think about alternatives. So for example, right now, I'm wearing a sweater because I was feeling cold in my home. So instead of automatically going to the thermostat and making it warmer, I grabbed a sweater and my Earth Day scarves. I could have grabbed a blanket too. And if I'm at an event with swag is one that people often come across. If let's say I have a choice between a free hat and a free t-shirt, if I don't need a free hat or a free t-shirt, then I would do the third choice and choose neither. I also make low waste options my norm. I'm all about zero waste and trying to get as close to that as possible. So if I'm out wanting food, I would just keep in my mind, I wouldn't make getting takeout containers an option in my mind. So I just changed the way I think of that. And a few years ago, I stopped getting takeout unless I had a container with me and was going to a place that would let me use that container. Or when I'm leaving the house, I'll grab my reusable water bottle, probably a set of cutlery, maybe a reusable grocery bag. They don't take that much space. They're really easy to carry around, and they make it really easy to not get garbage while you're out. And one of my favorites, especially this time of year, is spending time in nature, or at least outdoors. Even if you can't go right into the woods, you can go out and just walk along the sidewalk and get outside. Get yourself outside, get your kids outside. So we did our Earth Day walk this morning, and my 4-year-old was thanking the trees for giving us oxygen. He was noticing the May apples that are starting to come up, and he can do that because it's being part of our conversations right from when he was a baby before he could even talk. He always goes outside. We make the woods our playground so that he's having that connection to nature. And right now, with all the actual playgrounds and play structures closed and the trails still open, making the woods and the trails your playground and your kids' playground is a really nice option to help our physical health, our mental health, our well-being for a long time. That's it for me.
Thanks, Heather. That's great. So it's Stephanie back again. And I just want to point out that if anyone has any questions about any of the ideas that are being shared, feel free to post those in the chat box as well if you're wanting more explanation or clarification on anything that's brought up. So my top 3 are, in general, reducing overall consumption. And that includes for gift giving as well. So we've shifted more to giving experiences as gifts, whether that's for kids, birthday parties, or our own children, or as a family, doing things as an experience as opposed to giving actual products. And if we are in need of something, I try to shop for used products first, if at all possible. In addition, I enjoy walking and cycling as much as possible to our activities. We've relocated, for example, our dentist and hair salon so they're in walking distance. We can walk to and from school. We walk or bike to our kids' soccer activities. So those kinds of things, trying to reduce the use of our vehicles. My hope is to buy an electric bike as soon as I can get back out again. For some of the longer distance, including hopefully commuting to and from work, using that instead of our vehicle to try to just reduce how much we're using a gas vehicle. And the last thing I've done more, is to get more engaged in politics, as well as volunteer and working more in the environment and climate focused organizations. I think it's good to be informed, engaged in what's going on, and understanding what's happening where policies are being made and changed, so that we can let the people in those positions know that we support action towards climate protection and environmental protection, and that they have the support of the constituents for those decisions as well when it comes to it. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I want to we'll pass that on now to Deniz. That's the end of the HEN team, and I want to invite the climate action team from the town of Oakville to contribute their ideas as well. Thanks very much, Deniz.
Awesome, thanks, Stephanie. So for my top 3, my first one was definitely my commute to work. So I'm in a really fortunate situation. I am able to walk to a GO station from where I live. I take, most days I take the train to Oakville, and then usually as soon as I step off the train, there's an Oakville Transit bus waiting for me to take me up to Town Hall, which really makes my commute very convenient. I prefer in the afternoons when I'm on my way home to walk actually back to the Oakville GO station. It just helps me get my steps up. I find it a really nice way to unwind from the day and sort of just kind of get through some of that stress that comes up from a normal day of work. And I don't actually own a car, but I do have access to a car sometimes. And so I've been able to measure the difference between driving, and I drive with traffic versus commuting with the train and walking. And it's about the same time. So both of them take me about 50 minutes to get to work door to door. But I find with the train, it's just a lot more relaxing. I can be checking my phone, watching a video, reading a book, or sleeping, which I often do in the morning. So just getting some extra time to sleep is fantastic. And then I really try and support local businesses, farmers where I can. I have a sort of Saturday morning ritual where I'm able to walk to my local market. I have a couple of vendors there that are really trusted, and be able to, so that I know I'm getting local groceries. I have a picture up there of some flowers that were grown right here where I live, and they were grown in people's backyards. And I'm just refilling one of my soap containers there. But that extends on to different groceries and different produce where I'm able to actually buy the food from somebody that I've built. I mean, it's not, a close personal relationship with, but I've built a relationship with that farmer. I know their story. I know where the food's coming from and how it was grown, which gives me a lot of extra assurances that I know what I'm putting in my body and serving to my family, but also helps make it a more personable experience. And then my last thing is something I've really gotten into over the last couple of years is birding. And just to speak to what Heather was saying before, it's just about cultivating that appreciation for nature. Birding takes me outside. It's a great activity to do by yourself, which is partly why I like it. It's very meditative, it's very relaxing, and actually it's something that you can enjoy during self-isolation. So we've been keeping track of all the birds that we've seen in our backyard. And I live in a little bit more of an urban community. We've seen 21 species of different birds from just looking out the window and being mindful and investigating what we're looking at. And it's something that you can do anywhere. So you can do it while you're walking down your street, even if you're in a more urban area. If you're out in a rural area, there's fantastic birding. If you're by the water, if you're out in the woods, you can bird anywhere. If it's something that you are interested in and you're feeling like, you want to start to get into, I would recommend there's an Ontario Birds Facebook group to sign up for, and that's where you get to see all the kind of expert level birders, although it's a group of everybody ranging from beginner to expert, posting photos of the birds that they've seen. And some of them are just fantastic, beautiful photos. And it's just a great way to get to know and appreciate the diversity of birds that we get in Ontario, which is hundreds of different species. And I think you'll be surprised by some of the colors and types of birds that you might see there.
Guess I'm up. Hi, Donna Hales with the Town of Oakville Climate Action Department. So yeah, just speaking again to what Deniz was talking about, local veggie box subscription. And it was interesting because I used to have one and then I let it drop. And then with the COVID situation, I signed up for one again pretty early on in the process. And it was funny because about 2-3 weeks after signing up, they had cut it off because so many people have signed up for that. It's just a great way to get fresh vegetables, you know, it's consistent. It's going to be price-wise staying the same throughout the growing season, and also the steady supply, because there could be some growing concerns with certainly right now with distribution. But just even outside of COVID times, it's great. It supports local business and farming, reduces food production and distribution greenhouse gases, which is huge. And it's also been really good, sort of with that idea of if it's in front of you, we'll eat it. So my kids, I've been buying a lot less junk food and forcing them to eat the vegetables. So it's been really good for that. So we've been eating healthier and going to more of a vegetarian lifestyle. The other thing that I did, this was last year, I used to bike to work and commuted, but I didn't use my bike for a lot of other things. It was a bit of a heavier bike, a little clunky. I didn't have any, like if I wanted to stop somewhere, I didn't really have anywhere to store stuff. So last year I invested in a much better bike. So it's a lot lighter, a lot funner to ride. I got clipless pedals, so it's a lot easier to pedal. And I also got things like some saddlebags and some different accessories that just made it a lot more convenient and a lot easier for me to do errands. So even if you like biking, if you just make a few extra investments to make it useful for doing things that, like, you know, whether it's commuting, whether it's doing errands, picking things up, it makes a big difference and it encourages you to go out more. So that's been really great. And the other thing that I've been a lot more conscious of is supporting green investments, because it's great that we all do things ourselves and locally, but I think just where our money goes to, we really have to start thinking about that. So I know my pension has quite a few investments in carbon-based industries, carbon heavy, including oil and gas. So there's been myself, but a lot of other people have also been really pushing for them to divest. There's been, I know, a lot of other places around the world that have been pushing for their investments and portfolios to be looking more at investing in green industry and really pulling away the money from those industries that are damaging to the environment. So I think that can make a big impact. The other thing that I've been doing just on a smaller level is investing in microloans. So you still do get return on investment, might not be as much, but the benefit is that it's investing in local business, it invests in independent farmers and sustainable livelihoods. So I think that's really important to sort of spread the joy. And so it's not just yourself, but you're helping others support a greener lifestyle and a greener environment. So yeah, I think there's lots of different ways that we can all sort of work together and help bring other people into making a more green sort of a system. Those are my three.
Great. Thanks. So I'm Trisha Henderson again with the town. So again, I like to practice energy conservation at home. I moved into a new home about a year ago, just under a year, and it's a townhouse now. And I'm finding that it's very insulated, so I really don't have to run my heat very often. I have, like Heather mentioned, we have so many blankets and slippers and things around here. So me and my son have really just gotten used to putting on an extra layer and cuddling up with a blanket, scarf, whatever it may be. We've also put in ceiling fans in the bedroom so that in the summer we can open a window or run the ceiling fan instead of having to use air conditioning. This unit doesn't have air conditioning, so it did come with some window air conditioners, but in the bedrooms we really do just try to use the windows and the fans. I like to keep active, so I do try to find sports and activities that are sustainable, that don't require a lot of equipment or electricity. So I do a lot of biking, running, and I play a lot of ultimate frisbee. The one thing about frisbee I just like to highlight, I didn't get into it for the environmental aspects necessarily, but it is just a way that you can, you know, start to influence things that you already take part in. So with the tournaments that we go to and the leagues that we play, there's always a spirit prize, but then there's also an environmental prize. So they do take into consideration and reward teams and individuals that either carpool or are never seen with bottled water, and different issues like that. Teams that, you know, put all their recycling together at the end of a tournament and really take care of the fields and things like that. So that's always kind of really nice to be able to kind of meld your environmental and your activities together. Sustainable shopping as well. A bit too much, but I frequent the consignment stores. Oakville has some great consignment stores and thrift shops. I would guess probably 80% of my wardrobe is from secondhand consignment stores or hand-me-downs from friends and relatives. And I've been that way for a long time. Other than, you know, undergarments, most shoes and, you know, bathing suits, things like that, I would probably say most of my stuff is secondhand. Again, I don't eat much meat, but I do eat some seafood. So I really try to look for sustainably harvested seafood. I support local farmers and even local or Canadian brands when I'm at the supermarket. I try to. If I'm not creating my own cleaning supplies, I do try to buy low toxic cleaning supplies when I'm out as well. And that's for the environment, and that's indoors and out. But it's also for my animals. I have a cat and a dog as well. So I like to kind of just use the vinegar, baking soda, and a little bit of lemon juice for most things inside. So that's me.
That's great. Thanks so much, Trisha, and thanks everybody for sharing their ideas. Now, at this point in the webinar, we were going to break up into smaller groups so that we could start to hear from some of our participants on the call today about some of the actions that you take for yourselves, for your families, in your homes and in your community. In the chat box, we've been asking if you could identify according to a sort of a topic area, but not everyone has done that. So I'm going to ask you to just pop into the chat box if you could. You'll see a question there asking you to respond to which area you'd like to talk about. And these include energy, biodiversity, lifestyle, waste reduction, transportation, or growing your own food. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Can I see some thumbs up to know that you can hear me? Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay, I think we have everyone back. Does it feel like you've been transported from one place to another? Okay, excellent. So we're going to just take a few minutes to hear from each group. Let me share my video. A few minutes to hear from each group about some of the highlights from your conversations and some of the great actions you may have discussed. I'm going to start with Denise's team, which included Michael, Patterson, and Julia, I believe, talking about energy. And please feel free to put on your videos so we can see the faces of those engaged.
First, I need to say thank you to Julia and Michael because we were so enthralled in our conversation that even though we were being mindful of the time, we didn't get our chance to really say goodbye, and we had a really interesting conversation. So we kind of maybe picked up on three themes. Both Michael and Julia had mentioned about intentionally picking smaller spaces to live in. Michael choosing a townhouse and Julia a condo, and just how that in and of itself requires less energy to heat or cool those places. And then along those lines as well is relying more on sort of physical sort of heat traps or physical ways to keep the indoor temperature rather than mechanical equipment. So Michael had mentioned increasing, one of the first things he did was increase the insulation in his home. And Julia was talking about how she loves to pile on blankets and that keeps her cozy at night rather than turning up the temperature. And then the last thing, which is, I know sort of overlaps with another topic, but is still really pertinent to energy, is transportation. And so both of them spoke about trying to move to more electric transportation, with Michael having an EV and Julia a hybrid as well. And some of the challenges around getting the infrastructure, particularly in a condo, to support electric transportation. So I think those are our top three highlights.
Thanks so much, Denise, and as well as Michael and Julia. That's fantastic. We're going to move on to Andrea and Helen's group, who were talking about growing your own food with Beth, Jacqueline, and Marcia.
So we had lots of great ideas in our group. So some of them we heard were save egg cartons and the egg shells. And unless I misunderstood, I believe they'll save the egg cartons to return to the farmers at the farmers market so they can reuse them, and using the egg shells to start seeds, which is a great idea. Or even adding the eggshells to your garden to supplement the nutrients in the soil. That was a great idea, instead of just throwing them away. A lot of people are growing their own food, which is amazing. We like to see that anyway, but it's also really good for the earth because now you're not paying and costing the earth and greenhouse gas emissions to transport vegetables from far, far away all the way to your house when you can grow them in your backyard. So great for hearing that everybody's growing their own food and growing things from seeds. We have someone who has a pollinator garden. Awesome. And she keeps her house very energy efficient with the ceiling fans. And we had a lovely summary from somebody who said she just likes to live in harmony with the environment, which I think is just an amazing summary that we should all live by.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Helen. That's great. Next, if we could hear from Heather and Trisha on lifestyle and waste reduction methods.
Sure. Are we both unmuted? I can start.
Let's see Trisha.
Yeah,
ahead,
so
Trisha.
we were waste and lifestyle. So our conversation touched on many topics. We touched on gardening, energy, waste, making your own things like nut milk and yogurt. We talked about electric vehicles, how to grocery shop more sustainably. Cindy talked to us about her rooftop solar panels and the FIT program. And then we had a little bit of a conversation about COVID-19 and the increase in waste that we're kind of seeing around, and how the pandemic has really removed our option of bringing reusable bags or reusable mugs and things like that. So we're kind of reverting back a little bit right now. And then again, Cindy brought up a great point about you know, not feeling guilty, trying to do what we can when we can, and making an effort, making, you know, a conscious effort to do more, but also, you know, not being too hard on ourselves when, you know, life happens and we're caught off guard and we need, you know, a plastic shopping bag or something like that. So it was a good conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Trisha. Heather, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that was a pretty good summary. I think you covered all the important bits.
Okay, great. Thank you both. And thank you to that group as well. And lastly, we're going to hear from Donna and Beatrice, actually, on their biodiversity discussion, please.
Did you want to start, Beatrice? I've already had my 15
Sure.
minutes of fame.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So we were discussing biodiversity, and we concentrated on things that people can actually control and do in their own homes and their own spaces. So we discussed 3 points. First was to create native gardens, so plant native species in their own gardens. So that increases biodiversity, and then you can support the local wildlife while you are doing that. So gardening with a purpose, I would say. So plant species specifically because of the what they can provide to the environment, not only how they look. The other one we concentrated on were pets and how to manage your pet. So 2 things came here. So one of them was dogs off leash, and the other one was free roaming cats, which both are should not happen because it's part of Oakville's bylaw, right? So and that has or creates a lot of damage to wildlife and biodiversity in our woodlots and parks. And the third one that we mentioned was salt use in our properties. So the amount of salt that we use during the winter to melt the snow and the impact that can have in the water quality of our creeks. So what we discuss is to find either alternatives or reduce the amount of salt used so then we can protect wildlife in our water ways.
And I'm just going to throw in
Sure.
a quick plug for both of our organizations. So Oakville Green, Beatrice is with Oakville Green. They've got some really great deals right now on native plants and a lot of great resources for native gardening. And for the town of Oakville, I put a link into the chat We've got a biodiversity strategy, and there's a lot of background information, but there's a lot of really great sort of ideas that you can incorporate in your own property. So there's a link there, and yeah, I'd encourage people to use both those resources.
Fantastic. Thank you both, Beatrice and Donna. That's great. I'm going to pass it on to Trisha now to close up the session today.
Great, thank you. So happy Earth Day. This is a great chat. I'm glad to see so many folks on the line and willing to discuss what they're doing every day, and especially kind of in our new normal, what habits we've kind of picked up while working from home and things like that. So thank you. We urge you to check out our Oakville Ready website. There's lots of resources on there to help you kind of through this tough time right now. And we also urge you to look where your nearest hub is in case we do have any extreme weather events coming up this spring with wind, flooding, anything like that. You can kind of see the nearest location to take care of you there. All of our past webinars that we've hosted through Oakville Ready are also on this site, and this one will be posted probably tomorrow. Oakville Green and Beatrice from Oakville Green have a call tomorrow. I'm assuming it's at 1 p.m. as well. So we urge you to take part in that. You can see it on the screen now, Native Plants in Your Garden, tomorrow at 1 p.m. And the Zoom link again will be on the Oakville Ready site and Halton Environment Network's Facebook page. We have one next week on April 29th at 1 p.m. and that's with our recreation and culture folks from the town of Oakville. They've really stepped up during this time, COVID-19, and done a lot of wellness checks and vulnerable population checks within the community. And they want to hear about, you know, some things that we're doing and maybe where they could serve us better and let us know what they've been up to. If you have an idea for a community call, please reach out to us. After the Halton Food, Helen and Andrea did their call on gardening. I think we got about 10 more requests. So the Halton Food will be putting on some series of webinars, I assume, out of that. So please let us know. We're looking to keep people engaged while we're all home. So please reach out to us. Our contact's the next page, I believe. Yeah, so thank you once again and happy Earth Day. My name's Trisha Henderson. My email's right there, trisha@oakville.ca, and Lisa Kohler at Halton Environment Network. So I think that's about it for us. We're pretty much right on time. So thank you for your participation, and we hope to see you soon. Happy Earth Day.